public appearances again?
I just missed it. I missed the closeness of an audience, of a live audience. So just as soon as I got out of the movie contracts, I started to do live performances again.
When Elvis started to tour, he broke house records wherever he appeared.
For a long time, baby.
Late in 1972, Marty Pacetta, who is a very well-known producer, approached Elvis about doing Aloha from Hawaii, which eventually would be seen by over 1 billion people all over the earth.
The Aloha from Hawaii special, live around the world by satellite. I mean, these are events that nobody else ever did before. He did. He took it, he went out and did it with heart.
Thank you very much.
But Marty Pacetta told Elvis, he said, if we're going to do this show, Elvis, you're going to have to do something for me. And Elvis said, what's that? He says, you're going to have to lose at least 30 pounds. And he says, I'll lose it. And sure enough, Elvis did. And that's why I said if Elvis had a challenge, he could meet it head on.
The story of Elvis Presley is almost Faustian, because the man who's most responsible for his rise to superstardom is also the person who is most responsible for his fall from grace, and in a way, his death.
Something was going on there. I don't know. That was a strange relationship. We all kind of talked about it, you know. My heart bleeds for what happened to him. It shouldn't have happened to him because he was too good of a human being.
The Colonel was more or less a presence. What his relationship personally was with Elvis, I don't know. But even when he wasn't around, he was there.
2 years I was there, and I met the Colonel maybe twice. So it seemed to me that he wasn't all that concerned, just so that, you know, the money was coming in, basically.
Elvis's fabled manager, Colonel Tom Parker, was not the person that he claimed to be. He was actually a Dutch citizen, Andries van Kuzik, who had entered the United States illegally in 1929 and lived here without benefit of a valid passport. And that was one of the reasons why he wouldn't let Elvis tour, because he was afraid that if he left the country, he wouldn't be allowed back in. Before he became a personal manager, Parker worked the carnival circuit. He could always spot a winner.
He's back. He's ready.
But once he started managing Elvis, he dropped all of his other clients because he had Elvis exclusively, and he was getting 50% of his earnings.
Don't leave me now.
Colonel Parker took him off of Sun Records and put him on RCA, gave him incredible TV exposure, put him on the Dorsey shows, and then on Ed Sullivan. And once Elvis played Ed Sullivan, it was all over.
I wanted to say to Elvis Presley and the country that this is a real, decent, fine boy. We want to say that we've never had a pleasanter experience on our show with a big name than we've had with you. You're thoroughly all right. So now, let's have a tremendous hand for a very nice person.
Colonel Parker was a tremendous gambler. I mean, when Elvis was working at the Hilton Hotel, he lost literally millions of dollars. And that's why he booked Elvis in there a lot of times. And I don't think Elvis ever really knew how much money that was being taken from him. First of all, you know, Colonel Parker was an equal partner with him. So right off the bat, he was taking 50%. Plus, who knows if he ever gave any accounting for the stuff that he sold. You know, his albums and his personal appearances and stuff, and T-shirts, and amounted to literally hundreds of thousands of dollars every week. And most of that was cash.
One day I was sitting in Colonel Tom's office at MGM, and I was getting ready to sign my contract. And Time magazine called, and they were asking for permission to put Elvis on the cover of Time magazine. And Colonel Tom said, well, fine, that'll be $25,000. And Time magazine supposedly said, you don't understand. We're help. We're a big help. And Colonel Tom said, you don't understand. We don't need your help.
Colonel screened all the songs that came Elvis's way, which is why there are so few choice songs in any of Elvis's movies. Parker insisted that he get 50% of the publisher's share and 50% of the writer's share of these songs. And that's why the top songwriters in Hollywood didn't submit to Elvis. And it's also why the Colonel discouraged Elvis from doing dramatic motion pictures, because there's no songs in a dramatic motion picture.
All these teams of writers would submit their songs, and I'm lucky enough to have gotten 12 movies. Rockahula Baby was probably the most important. Do the Clam and Spin Out. I Got Lucky, Beyond the Bend, Cindy Cindy, Big Love, Big Heartache, you know. It's fun.
The Colonel had definitive ideas about what he wanted Elvis to do, which in many cases Elvis was not happy with, although he didn't fight him on a lot of them.
He was interested in his own success and letting Colonel Parker make all the decisions for him, I guess.
But you have to understand how he was brought up. He had a certain amount of loyalty, plus a contract to Colonel Parker. He also had been taught to say yes ma'am and no ma'am, and he felt that he had a moral as well as legal obligation.
I think probably Elvis should be very happy that he met the Colonel. He helped him a lot. They were a pretty good team. It worked pretty good for both of them.
I went with a girlfriend and we had seats way. I mean, Elvis was about 3 inches tall. But you could still see, even from that distance, you could still see the spirit in his eyes, that thing that he had. When he would meet a girl, there was, there was a consensus among the guys that worked for him. I think they did like a score from 1 to 10, and I rated high. One of the most important things is, could you take care of him? Or were you just there for the fun of it, Because part of the job was taking care of him. The romance was short-lived, and the taking care of was the most part of the relationship. It was more, let's keep him alive than going to the movies. I went to Los Angeles with him and spent time in his Los Angeles home, and I went to Graceland and spent time there. But it was a gradual thing. I started out to be a girl, but right from the beginning, it was a new car and a new wardrobe in week 1. And I don't think that happened with every girl. As a matter of fact, I'm sure that it didn't.
Even though she was treated royally, Sheila Ryan, like those who came before her, learned very quickly that Elvis was anything but monogamous. In fact, Linda Thompson was still very much a part of his life.
I was real young, and my father left, and I didn't have a lot of self-esteem. And it was kind of an out-of-body experience to begin with. What Elvis? Hello, It was a strange thing. I mean, how do you end up dating Elvis? I mean, it's so surreal. So the fact that there's another girl, what am I going to complain? Now, Linda, on the other hand, she did plenty of complaining. She was a Miss America or a Miss Tennessee or whatever, and she had parents that nurtured her, and so she had a sense of herself, whereas I was just a little bit of a free spirit and not too demanding. Mind you, I'm from the Midwest, a small town. It's a Cinderella kind of story. And all of a sudden, here I am, sort of like queen for a day, or a queen for a year. I think that when I left him, he died within a year. Within a year. Because I was still very close with Joe, Joe and I had become very good friends, because when Elvis had to have Linda there, because Linda and I dated him at the same time, it was sort of like Joe's job to take me to Hawaii or whatnot.
Well, that's the way it was with Elvis, with any woman he ever dated. Yes, he may like them more than others, but when they left, he always wanted somebody else. So that's how he handled it. You know, he could love somebody, but yet he had to have comfort of another woman around him. I think Elvis's fascination with women started because of his mother. You know, he's very close to his mother, and he always had his mother there for his talking and problems. And he felt more comfortable with women. He could sit and relate to a woman a lot more than he could with a guy. He could sit and tell them about his problems. He could talk about things to them, and around men he had to be macho.
I think he loved women. He loved his mother, and from what I've learned over the years, if a man loves his mother, you stick around, and if he doesn't, you leave right away, because, you know, that's the deal. You know, I mean, if the guy doesn't love their mother, they're not going to love any other woman.
I think he said he was on a ship when he found out his mom died, and he could not show his feelings in front of the other guys. He said at night, after everybody, he made sure everybody was asleep, he put all the pillows over his head and cried for the loss of his mom, because that was a very painful thing for him.
Elvis's heart was a million pieces. His mother was his life. He did everything for her. He called her Satnin, which is a nickname. He loved his mother more than anything in the world.
Is your wife Priscilla with you?
No, she's not.
It really, really tore him up when they parted. I don't think that Elvis really thought that it would ever happen, but it did.
He would say that he didn't love her, that he made a promise when she was very young, and he kept his promises, and so he married her. But yet, he had a certain sense of ownership that I think, you know, destroyed him. And the fact that she would go on without him, his ego could not handle that.
Well, you know, when he broke up with Priscilla, it was a very emotional thing for him, because, you know, here I am, this big star and sex symbol supposed to be, and my wife leaves me. It bothered him tremendously for his ego and his own self. He could understand why.
And his marriage, and that didn't work, and he loved the little girl, the baby, he treasured.
I have mixed feelings about what Priscilla has done and what her motivation was, and, you know, how much love was there. And I have a lot of different information, some from Elvis, some from friends of Elvis, and some from time that I spent with her. So I know different sides of her, and some are good and some are not, just like anyone.
There was a time where he talked to Red West, and he wanted him to go shoot Mike Stone. Mike Stone was the one that she had an affair with. And just as Red was making the arrangements to do it, Elvis said, "Red, forget about it." He said, "It's just too heavy." Because Elvis realized, you know, what he was doing, but he was hurt that much.
What's a man going to say? His wife runs off with somebody. He's living a double standard, like anyone in his position would. You know, it was okay for him to be with anybody and everybody that he felt like being with, but when she sort of became independent and fell in love with someone else, it killed him. I mean, he couldn't deal with it. So what was he going to say? I still love her. No.